Hey everybody, it's Joe Hoskins with the Discovering the Unknown team, and I thought I'd come to you today and bring you some new stuff out of the old files that we had. I thought I'd start off with an old pyramid here that I found, and this is an East Tennessee find. Believe it or not, these things we find in East Tennessee, it's amazing to imagine that you would find a pyramid around there, but it's true. What's interesting here, I think, are all these designs coming off here that you can see. So this isn't just a static design like you see in a normal pyramid. These things have what we call relief carvings, and there are images here. And I don't even know if you can get these images, but what's amazing is each face of this has a different image. So this thing is designed that way. It's amazing to see that these pyramids. I don't know. Let me see if I can get this zoom here where you can see. Have images on them a lot of times, and that's hard to see. But this one actually has an image, a face on it. You can see it here, the mouth, the nose, and many times there are things that can be interpreted in two ways. So if you really look, this face can also be seen here, facing the other way, eye, nose, mouth. So this is a double-faced image, and this is really common where they have a duality in what they do, and I'm not sure why that is, but I see that a lot. In other words, in a lot of the art, it can be interpreted in different ways, not just one way. So I think that's really interesting when it comes to looking at this kind of thing. And here's another find that I thought was interesting. I believe this is a giant, and it may be a mummy, it may be a mummified giant, it could be a mudfossil giant, but you can see the head here clearly, and it almost looks Egyptian. It may have a Phoenician look even, but you can see the shoulders here. This is a huge, of course, this is a satellite shot, so this thing is huge. You see. It's amazing to see that you could find things like this. I'm seeing some different faces in here, some different heads. This is always a constant when we look at this ancient stuff. They are big fans of the mud fossil head, and we see that over and over and over. It's a theme that's repeated, but it's amazing to see, almost like a coffin-like thing here. You can see this shape. And then in here you can see this head. To me, that's very obvious when I look at that. We can see all different kinds of things I got here standing by. Here's an interesting thing. If you ever wondered what a megalithic block is, or when they talk about Cyclopean architecture, this is a fantastic example. And what you can see are these huge stones here. This is an enormous block of stone, extremely heavy. Again, when you see this type of mortarless junction and the blocks of this size, this is called Cyclopean architecture. It's the kind of thing you run into in the pre-flood world. So that gives you an idea of how old this is. And if you look at this, if you really look at this, there are images all carved in all of this. So this isn't all just rough rock. If you look at this, it's all something. These are images actually. If you were to blow that up, let's say this part here, if you were to really look at that, you'd see these carvings here. So all this is very intricate. I can see faces here carved, and it's some really amazing stuff when you realize that there's stuff this old that's still undiscovered, that people aren't talking about it, or it's not acknowledged. But this is a site in East Tennessee. I found this. Oh, I've seen known this site for years, and so I'm always, when I look at a shot, I always look at details. So what I notice about this is this in the background here. You can see some heads represented here, and so I always take every opportunity to look and learn and see what these things are. If there can be something learned from these images up here. Even in the background, I've found some of my most awesome things by accident in the background. So what I like to do is really pay attention to detail and look at things in detail. Here's an interesting picture here. These are giant footprints. And of course, this is a satellite shot, so you can see these are entrances to tombs here, and I took it a long way so that you could see how far these tracks go. And it's obvious that these are footprints. What's hard to imagine is it's from a satellite. So that person was huge, and that goes without saying. I keep trying to adjust the TV, which you can't do it that way, but I hope you can see all those awesome prints all throughout here. And people say, well, there's no evidence of giants today. Well, maybe you can tell me what would make those giant prints there that look like a giant footprint, exactly, spaced exactly like a footprint would be, right, left, right, left, right, left. So, you get into this evidence, and sometimes it's a little bit hard to ignore when you really look at it. Here's an interesting image. Now this is something that everyone else would look over this, and I mean everyone. I found this in an industrial area. And to me, this shape was just not, I just could not imagine what this would be. Now, what people would say is that this is an image that, where, oh, you're in an industrial area, it's probably where they just pushed up a bunch of dirt from a bunch of different directions, And you could make a case for them saying that. You can see some things here that even look like a tire mark here. But they don't line up. So they're not tire marks. And then when you really look at the details, it gives it away. They're carvings all over these areas here, visible. Here, here. And I've found this kind of thing before. And I'm not telling you I know what it is, but I'm telling you I know it's ancient, and I know that it's not natural. I don't know if you can see this, but I can see a face here. There's a face. And there's also carvings everywhere on this. And, you could say, well, you're reaching, but you just wouldn't believe what I found in the industrial areas. Everyone should really look at industrial areas. Oh, let's jump into this wonderful picture of a pyramid. This is a wonderful pyramid I found, and it's not like you can say you found it. Look at this thing. It's enormous. These are street lights down here, and this is right beside a road in Grundy, Virginia, and this whole thing is a giant pyramid. It's obvious. These are carvings here. Obvious carvings, obvious. And I actually had people, when I first came out and said these were pyramids, and that's many years ago, I had just all kinds of people just laugh and laugh and laugh at me and tell me how ridiculous I was for saying this is a pyramid. But I say to them this, I'm a details guy. And if I looked at this and couldn't find any ancient carvings, I'd say, okay, you're right, it's maybe the highway, but the highway department has absolutely no reason to make a perfect pyramid, number one. Number two, there are very obviously carvings, that's what this is. If you looked at this up close, these are all faces, beings, creatures, carvings, all of this. And it's super obvious when you go there because I've been there. And so what you have here is a giant pyramid in America that is being actively just, let's not talk about this. And let's make fun of people who do. And of course that's worked for years for these skeptics and what we'll call them are the powers that be will say they are. But what you got to do here in these cases is just look at the details. And when you look at the details, it gives it away. So, obvious pyramid here and a fantastic structure. And guess what's right next to it? This other pyramid. Look at that. And you go, well, gosh, you mean that's right next to it? And I mean, yes, that's about 500 yards from that first pyramid I showed you. These are all in Grundy, Virginia. I'm telling everyone where they are. I do not tell everyone where all of my finds are because some of them are really incredible and we haven't got deep enough into them till we do that yet. But the reason I'm telling about these are I've already disclosed these years ago. And so anyone can go to Grundy, Virginia and see these right in the middle of town if you go to the Walmart there. So you can see what I've got circled here is this image of this left facing profile. This looks Aztec to me. It may well not be, but it looks similar to that with the arm back and this profile facing this way. Again, carvings, statuary, all this stuff is just testament to it being real, and I hope that's evident to you because I can tell you when I went there, it was super evident to me. And literally, when you go there to Grundy, you can feel it. You can feel the energy from these. You can see these obvious doorways or niches here. And you can literally see the statuary and the faces in it. Nothing whatsoever to do with the highway department. Although I will say, in their defense, they did come through and they made a concerted effort at these bottom layers especially to erase the carvings so that you don't notice them near the road. But they kind of quit as they go up. And I'm not sure why you go up to that. Well, I'm sure why, but it's hard to kind of imagine why. But they're not real fond of talking about pyramids in America if you hadn't noticed that. And let's not quit before we show the third pyramid there. This is the third pyramid in Grundy, Virginia. And you can see here, this is a giant steps. I don't know if you can see that. I believe you can see it. This is a step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See how they're perfectly the same size? And you think, well, okay. But here's the trouble. That step there Oh, it's easily 8 to 10 feet. So you'd have to be pretty big to walk up these steps. Even these steps, the steps are 4 feet high easily. The point is, this was made for giants. And that's not a shocker that you would run into giants when you run into this giant pyramid. Here, I hope you can see, I can look and see the carvings here. They're figures. Faith, 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 faith. These are all figures carved in here. Some of them are grotesque. Some of them, and that's another thing here. This stuff is not, it's not necessarily all human type stuff. And so that's something to kind of realize is that, got a fly right in here, but it's something to realize is that a lot of this stuff, you know, you could say, oh, well, the Aztec did this or this predates them. I believe this predates the Olmec. I believe this is a pre-flood culture. And you can just see a ridiculous number of carvings here. As I look at this up close, it's just incredible. And again, where have you heard that before? 3 pyramids together. I'm sure you have. Get back in here. Now, that's amazing. And then we can step into this giant Nephilim. This creature has turned to stone, but was once alive. And you can see the head here. And this is enormous. This is a satellite shot. I cannot tell you how big this head, the head of this creature would easily be 80 feet. Easily. This is an enormous thing. And what happened is some of these things got turned to stone. Now, it's either happened during the flood or it can have happened, literally there was a technology back then that they could freeze these things and literally pose them in these positions, these creatures. It's the weirdest thing, but I found really hundreds of examples of that. And they're called mud fossils. And of course, that's all been proven. But this is a wonderful example of a mud fossil. But this is where you can learn about the Nephilim here. You can see this is, I mean, it is a humanoid type creature. I'm not sure what this is, another head or something. This I perceive to be a head. Nostrils, a mouth, and 2 eyes. But again, that's about as much as it has to do with humanity. This is a, well, we call it the Nephilim. This is a wonderful mound. The largest mound reported in America is 65 feet. I believe this is taller than the largest mound. And there are people that might argue it's not a mound, but, it's fairly obvious. This is ancient and was made. You can see at the very top of it here, there's literally a statue of a person pointing a weapon here at this head, and I'm not sure really what that means, or pointing at that head. There's some statuary here. I'm seeing there and here. So this is ancient, and I found this on the way to go see the Grundy pyramids. So, and if you look here, this is all carved. This is a carved wall, and these are all carvings up through here. You can see little heads at the tops of these little statues. I don't know if you can see that. I can maybe try to enlarge that to show you these carvings and this stuff. And this is how you know that this is ancient and it's not modern. And people go, oh, well, someone piled some dirt up. And when you see this shape, it's time to look at it. And I don't care where it is. That's what I found. And people can go, oh, you're crazy. You know, well, maybe, you know. But, you know, I found a bunch of stuff. Here's a fascinating picture. And I'm not sure what this is, but I found it on a satellite. And this is obviously an alien head with two eyes and a giant shiny head here. This thing is enormous. It is not a shadow from a tree. It has nothing to do with that. And there are people who say that. I don't know any tree shadows that form perfect shiny alien heads. So there goes your tree shadow theory. And sometimes you just have to look at stuff and for what it is, you know. And it can be spooky. Here's again an attention to detail thing. Here you can see a structure here. You can see some kind of curved things going on here. This looks like machinery almost, or something, or technology, or something here. I don't know if you can see all this design in here. This doesn't escape me, and it's not for nothing. Like, this should not be here. This should be sticks. There should be no beautiful curves. None of this should be here. So this tells you there's obviously something to look at here. And this is near an entrance into the earth. I recognize this area and I know where this is. There's some things here you can see that look interesting here. Some faces. I'm not sure what you'd call that. Nothing very wholesome, I wouldn't think. But this thing is kind of spooky. Again, we're running into this, and here we have the entrance into the earth I was talking about. And I've never noticed this, but it has this large keyhole here in the middle of this thing. That is weird. This is 25 feet across. This is an entrance into the earth. This is apparently someone sitting up there. I'm not sure. But, you know, then there are people that go, oh, well, you know, it's just an old tunnel entrance. This is at a place it's near an industrial site. And I've been here, and you go, oh, well, it's just probably goes. The problem is this is carved with ancient heads and stuff. So this is ancient, and what this is obviously a doorway that this thing can roll up and shut this door. So this is an entrance into the earth, and I don't know, this is a dude here. This could be completely possible. But these are some of my old finds from back in the day, you know, when I first got into this subject of finding crazy stuff, you know, from satellite. And what I ended up realizing is some of the stuff's pretty groundbreaking, like this. This seems weird. This is a satellite shot, and this is a giant skull. What's cool about it is I think it's made of crystal, and I think it's way bigger than a house. So I guess that would be the largest crystal skull ever found, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is, which is amazing in my estimation. Back here you can see other faces. These are grotesque faces here. It's hard to see that maybe, but I can see it here as I look close. This skull is amazing, though. That thing, you can tell that is crystal. I mean, you can literally see through it. That's pretty amazing. And then, of course, if you take time to see this, you can perceive this big head here with the mouth looking this way. I believe I found this in Iceland. I'm not positive. But this, I believe, could be the largest crystal skull ever found. And, you know, I got that discovery, so if there's anybody out there interested in that, you can do that. This is actually another example of a crystal skull. And I would guess you would call it crystal. It's what it looks like to me, but I can see this shape here. And it's almost like it's wearing a robber's mask, and here are the eyes and the mouth. You look down here, you can see another head. So these things are from satellite. I have no idea. This also looks like the same kind of crystal stuff, but it's green. Opposed to this, which is white, which could be quartzite type thing. But again, I'll remind you, this is enormous. This stuff is enormous. The scale is what's staggering on that. And so let's get on down here to some other pictures that I could find here down in the. Okay, yeah, here's some interesting stuff. Here's an interesting mound that I found with this wonderful glyph. This is from East Tennessee. You can see the mouth, eyes, nose, and a big headdress on this person who's facing this way. And again, this looks like something you'd find in the Congo or something. This is in East Tennessee. So this is the thing I'm trying to say here, that we've got some things all over the world that nobody's talking about, that we kind of need to talk about that kind of stuff. This is a wide shot of that whole area. This is the same image I just showed you. This shows the whole area. This entire area is a megalithic site. And what I want you to notice here, this stuff is huge statuary and some pyramids and stuff, type things, but that's statuary. I hope you can see that. This is stone. And then what I notice here as we look is you've got this business, whatever this is, not so much to do with Earth, maybe, on that one. But what I want you to notice is how this moves back through here and how you can see more and more details as you look. And if you just take the time to not get in a hurry and look, you'll start seeing things that leap out to you. This looks like a person looking down. This would be a giant. Here, you can see what looks like another person. This would be a giant. These things, and it's not shocking to find these beings hanging out here, because this is not a place where people go. This is obviously not where people go. But when you see these things here, these beings, and it's easy for them to blend in, but what you can't miss sometimes are their heads. And then sometimes you realize that maybe off in the shadows here, this looks like a very large ET type creature there. Let me get that worked on a little bit. And there's a fly that is flirting with its death here. But man, that thing right here, I don't know if you can see, there's a being right here. It's obviously not human, with a shoulder, a big head, looking up this way. And that's kind of what you get when you get into these areas. You kind of get this stuff. And now when you look in the background here, anytime you see the dark background in a bright picture, that's always suspect to me. And this is a favorite thing to do of the scrubbers when they see something cool, and you can tell there's really cool stuff here. But you can also tell that this is all dark for some reason, unexplainably dark. And so this is a favorite ploy of the scrubbers. But boy, I can see some details in here that are just fantastic when we take a look. And again, this is all just a wide shot from Tennessee there. There's a ground glyph. You can see this alien head type thing on a ground glyph. So, you know, anyway, these are just some of the cool finds that I've found through the years, and I thought we'd take a look at a few of them. Here's an awesome giant. I found this on the backside of a mountain there. Here we can see the giant's head, and I see something that almost looks like glasses or something on it. And there are people that laugh about this. There's no problem with that. The giants had technology. They're not dumb. They had tools, weapons. I would not be shocked by anything like that. You know, you can just take that for what it's worth from somebody who's spent years literally studying giants and their cultures and literally the bloodlines and all the ones mentioned in the Bible anyway. So this is a fantastic shot. I hope you guys can see this head and this coffin-shaped thing he's almost in here. Stood up. I believe he's standing up. This isn't laying down. I believe he's standing against a mountainside. And this is a favorite thing to do, is they pose these giants. They'll take and pose them in these positions and freeze them against the mountainside, you know. Let's look through here and see what else we got here, if there's anything else. Here we go. Now, when we're looking at stonework and I'm out, I'll see stuff like this a lot. And again, it's just testament to there's nothing new under the sun. And what do we see here? Mouth, nose, and a big alien head. Just, I mean, a classic alien. This thing is not even close to human. But there's a perfect representation in stone from however many thousands of years ago of this creature, which we would call a grave. But yet there it is, thousands of years ago depicted there. You know, thousands of years ago. I'm driving along and I see this scene, okay? You know, everybody's seen the scene like this a lot. And, well, they're doing some construction, moving some stuff, and that's true. They are, but there's some interesting stuff here The first thing I noticed about this picture was this head. This is a Mudfossil head, mouth, eyes. You can see, if you look at this, this is a head. And you go, well, you know, that could just be a rock that looks like that. Well, when you find out more about rocks, you'll find out more about why a lot of them look like heads. Long story short about that is the rocks were alive, and so when you see rocks, they all used to be a creature of some kind. And it doesn't necessarily have to be human. There were all different kinds of creatures back in the day. But when you take time to look here at this picture, so we looked at this head, and that's interesting. But let's look at what I do. Again, I'm weird and I'm a details guy. I looked here. This is a giant skull. Eye, mouth, and that thing's big, you know. So when we look at that, that's what a giant skull would look like when you find it, because there one is and they found it. So, but do you see how easy it is to miss that? Do you see how you could walk right by that and just be like, that's a big rock. It sort of looks like a face. That's weird, you know. What this is discovery. This kind of thing needs to be taken seriously. Looked at. DNA you could get from this head. So it's a thing that needs to be looked at. And of course, you know, there are people talking about that. There's a wonderful guy named Roger Spur at Mudfossil University. I'm friends with Roger. I don't know if he'd remember me. He probably would. We've talked a few times, but you know, he's a busy guy. He knows a lot of people. So, you know, so everyone saw this. Now let's look a little deeper. And let's talk about this. What's this? Again, a representation of a humanoid, not terribly human though, you know. So this is again the repeating theme. These things can be found. This what you'll notice, this head is fantastic. The head itself has carvings on it, representations of wonderful artwork here on this head. And this is a thing that we miss, but what it shows is it's high art. What it shows you is no cavemen do art like this. You see, there's a face here, eye, nose, mouth. There's literally artwork on this ancient head. This is a thing that I found before. So what can all that mean? It means that we're missing it. It means that there's a lot of stuff that we are missing. Now we talk about a Mudfossil head. I'd like to eye, nose, mouth. So this is hard to see until you perceive it correctly. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. But now most people would not realize that. There's an image on the forehead. Again, symmetry. Now, everybody would dismiss this. Nobody would say this is a head, but I do, because I found a bunch of these, and I mean just a whole bunch. But what I want to point out to you is this. when you think about the ancients, they are suckers for symmetry. And so every time, if you want to find out if something is really old, or if there are carvings, look in the middle, look in the center, and see if you find any carvings, because they're suckers for this. So when we look in this area, I don't know if you can see that, but there is a big face there. Let me see, let me get it the right side. Here I can see one, but what you can see is there are carvings here. There's more to this than just this. And when you look at it, really, the whole thing is carved with artwork. So it's all meant to be interpreted, and it's deep stuff. It's not you know, it's not doodles, you know what I mean? It's real artwork. And so that's one of the things I noticed about this is, again, details, always details. Why, when you look here, are there so many faces coming out? People go, oh, well, and please know this. If you come onto our channel and use the word pareidolia, I will boot you off. So there, I've said it. No one here suffers from pareidolia. What we suffer from is good work that we do, man, on exposing what things need to be looked at, and what we need to look at a second time, and what we need to recognize that is that's discovery. Right here, you can see this. Now, this was at a construction site where they were working on some work here. And this thing's laying on the side of the bank. Well, this is a huge ancient statue, so very old. And here's what I want you to notice about this again. First thing, face here, okay? 2 eyes, nose, mouth. Okay, now forget that. Face. This is a hat, then. So these things always can be interpreted. You can see the face here. Mouth, eye, nose. And this is a hat. So it can always be interpreted in different ways. And it's not, we're not making it up. It's really meant to be interpreted that way. Okay, so I showed you this head. And then I showed you, cut it off here and look at this as the head, mouth. Now, erase all that and look at the whole thing again as this is the head, mouth, nose, eyes. So you see this stuff, and you can look at it in any of those configurations, and it makes sense. If there are people that just don't see the second way or the third way, but they see it the first way. The point is, it's so sophisticated, it can be interpreted in many different ways. And no one dumb makes that. So what that means is these very old ancient statues were made by very intelligent people, and none of that fits what they tell you in history. So herein, as we say, ladies and gentlemen, lies the problem. So let's look at a couple more things here before we can look at wrapping this up. But and now here's a super interesting thing here, and I've just been trying to figure out what this is, but I came upon this, and again, at an industrial site. And you can go, well, you can see this machinery here. And you can go, well, you know, what's the big deal about that? So what is this? Well, indeed, what is that? What is that? What I notice about it is it looks very modern, but I don't know what modern places would have this head in the front of their building here. This looks very much like a representation of a head or a skull, and then here we have another representation. So this stuff is, I guess the point I'm going to make about it again, and in this business, this is all ancient carvings. What I'm saying is, although this building looks very modern or whatever this is, I won't call it a building. I believe this is ancient, whatever this is. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means this ancient thing can't be explained, and this would be called an oocart, or an out-of-place artifact. But this is a pretty big artifact. But the point is, this is not normal. This is not modern. It's ancient, but it looks modern. If you could say, people could say, well, that's something that's halfway in construction. No, I've looked at this. This stuff is all ancient around it. These things, I can see an image within it that is not modern. So when you look at the details, again, this is how we determine this head here, eye, mouth. This is not modern. So this is an ancient site. What is it? That's the question. It could be a picture of ancient technology, an ancient technological site. Like I said, this is found near a place that's would be considered an industrial site. Again, a lot of times I find things in industrial sites. This is a face. This is ancient. This is not modern. A face, not modern. And again, these faces, they're not attributable to one culture. You can't look at it and go, oh, well, that's that's the Olmec, or that's, the Inca, or these things predate them. I will say that I do find things that seem to have correlation with those cultures, but they seem to predate them, is the thing that what I'm really finding. So I guess the point is, we got to get to the bottom of what this is. We got to get to the bottom of this business, of what all this stuff is. Here's a cool head I found. And again, this is what a mud fossil head could look like. You go, oh, that sort of looks like a head. There's a reason why you find holes. Have you ever noticed this? Let me just put a pin in things here. Have you ever noticed how you find tons and tons of rocks that look like a head? That's because tons and tons of rocks were heads. This would be the nose. This would be the eyes. These where the mouth area would be. But this is a mud fossil head, and I found this just on the side of the road, driving towards my house one day. And you go, well, I don't know about that. But this is ancient. I can see ancient images on it. That's what's so amazing. Anytime you have a really good piece of stone that's old, you need to look at it. Because always, invariably, you'll find carvings on it. You'll find images on it that you think, and if you look at this, you can see images of face here. So what they do is they find these areas that are good to them. It's a billboard, and so they just sit down and do some art here, which can be fascinating. It can tell stories. It can give you details. it certainly shows you that they were not cavemen. And these, even the art images on this head are incredible, you know. And so I just think that here we can see this creature with a teeth depicted, not human. This doesn't look nice. Again, fascinating stuff depicted, ancient stuff from East Tennessee. And of course, you always look at these areas and see what's carved, and what do you notice? These are carvings. This is how you discount when people say, oh, that's just a rock. You go, really? Let's look at it really close and see if it's just a rock, because everyone misses the details. The details are the story. So these are some of the fascinating things I found. This is from way back. This is from my early work when I was actually doing work on this phone. And I was finding all different kinds of stuff. But I just wanted to show you guys some cool things I had found. Mainly because this is the only thing I could get to work on my television, but we're going to fix all that soon. I've got some really fantastic new discoveries to show you that I've come up with on the iPad, but I cannot show it and film at the same time. But what we see, again, even with this image, what we're looking at here are pyramids. And this is how, I can't even remember where I found these. I have found more pyramids than anybody I know. And anybody wants to fight about it can come and fight with me, but I promise you probably haven't found as many as me. But what's fascinating is the carvings on this. Again, the imagery. Relief, these are called relief carvings. So difficult to do. Can't tell you the difficulty range here. Spire-like. This is almost I almost wouldn't call it a pyramid, but it's in the shape of it, you know. And this could be just a marker for a tomb. It could be something totally different. But one thing's for sure, it is replete with carvings. And it's what it shows is just the depth of these cultures, that nothing about them, I don't know, this looks like an enormous, terrifying skull with an eye, but nothing about them are meek. This is some down and dirty ancient culture here that quite frankly seems terrifying. But this would be an excellent description of what was going on in the pre-flood world when they talk about that kind of thing. This is the thousands and thousands and thousands of discoveries of really crazy stuff I found in all these different places. Here's an example of the duality of the art. Here's a fantastic example here of art duality. And then I'm going to wrap it on up before we get too carried away. But let's look at this one last image. This looks like an old man. You can see here the eyes and the nose and the mouth. And here's an old man. Boom, you got that image. Now forget that, back out and look at the image like that. And you can see a younger person with a crazy hairdo here, you know. So again, this art is meant to be interpreted in different ways. It's just fascinating to me that it has that depth, and that nothing about it is primitive, really. These are all carvings here. So just a quick little preview of some of the cool stuff I had found back in the day. And if I can find one more cool shot of it, wrap it up, I'm trying to look through. Oh, this is cool. Oh, here we go. Well, let's talk about this. Here's a giant. When I talked about the rocks being alive, this is an excellent example. What this is, a mud fossil head. And you go, what's a mud fossil head? It's simply the head of a giant that's been petrified. This would be the jawline. And this red area here would be consistent with where blood would come out, where your carotid arteries are. And this lends to the reality of it being a mud fossil, but we know that it is. And then even when you get up to the top of the head on this thing, as my buddy Ethan was pointing out, he said, Joe, you need to look at the top of the head of that thing. And he's right, because up here is another head on top of this head. And this is a cone head person with a nose and a mouth. This is plain to see, really obvious to see that face. And so what you got is a head on top of this creature, which already has a head. So we don't know, when it comes to the Nephilim, all the rules are out the window, and they can look anyway. They can be monstrous. They can have two heads. They can have. There's just any number of things. Here even looks like another skull to me, or type of a head there. Look at this. But what you get sometimes are these grab bag of creatures that come out this half deformed and made with different heads. And man, the Nephilim, there's just no let's close the show out with this wonderful image from a spring site I found that it really ended up being cyclopean. So what you see here, again, when we talk about the mud fossil head, mouth, eye, nose. This is why we find this so much. Why do you find this so much? Because giants were real. They were fossilized. They become mud fossils, and you get this. And then you get the ancients would do their art on them. So this is an artistic head drawn on this real mud fossil head. Fantastic shot to close the show out with. And I just want to thank everybody for watching a video with old Joe, who's on the team. I had to go out of town for a bit, but I'm back, and we're ready to roll out some new material for everybody to check out. So thank you so much for watching today. Check out the cool new material, and please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We need just a few more YouTube viewers, and we would love to have those.